We've got a light offering here initially to Jogi, who passed away recently. So we'll dedicate the merit of this meditation session to the future rebirth, very positive, useful rebirth, and so that Jogi may practice the holy Dharma. So we'll begin just with the prayers. I don't know if you have the prayer folder. We'll do them in English for those present. Those of you at home who can do them in Tibetan, please do. So we'll start with the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. Teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly pure and complete Buddha, all-knowing, having poise, Sugata, apprehender of the navigator of beings to be subdued, incomparable, teacher of gods and humans, to the Buddha, the Bhagavan, the glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, we prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. And we'll do the refuge and bodhicitta prayer 3 times. To the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and soul, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. To the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and soul, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. To the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and soul, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. And now we'll do the short mandala offering. So we're offering a perfect visualization of a pure land, offering it to the Buddhas for the benefit of all sentient beings, so that all sentient beings may experience such pure lands. This ground, anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, the 4 continents, adorned with sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered thus, may all beings enjoy such pure lands. And now we'll do the 7-limb prayer. I prostrate my 3 doors with a mind of respect and offer all actually arranged and mentally emanated offerings. I reveal all the downfalls and negativities that I have ever collected and rejoice in the virtues of individuals and superiors. Please remain perfectly abiding until samsara is no longer seen. I request you to turn the vast and profound wheels of Dharma. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. And then we'll do the prayer of the lineage gurus. Body born from 1,000,000 magnificent, excellent virtues, speech fulfilling the hopes of infinite beings, a mind that sees all objects of knowledge precisely. I bow my head to the chief among the Shakyas, supreme sons of the incomparable teacher, carrying the load of all the conqueror's deeds by their emanations appearing in countless realms. I prostrate to Maitreya and Manjushri. The mother of conquerors is difficult to fathom. The precise thought is in commentaries written by Jambavipa's ornaments, Nagarjuna and Asanga. I prostrate at the feet of those most renowned in the 3 realms. From these 2 great chariots come the excellent lineages, the path, brown view and vast deeds, their essential points gathered thoroughly and without fault. Prostration to the lamp holding this treasury instruction, giving explanation through compassion by seeing precisely and completely the essential points of the path, sutra and tantra, holder of the conqueror's entire holy Dhamma. Prostrations to the glorious Losang Drapa. I, seeing all the infinite teachings, supreme way of crossing for those moved by great skill and method, prostration to the spiritual masters who make everything clear. And the great treasury of excellence, the prayer of the path to enlightenment. The kind master is the basis of all qualities, and proper reliance is the root of the path. By seeing this excellence and through much striving, bestow blessings to be devoted with great respect. This gentle support of freedom, obtained this one time, is most difficult to achieve. Knowing its great value gives rise to a mind seizing its essence constantly, day and night. Bestow blessings to generate this continuum unceasingly. It is like a bubble in water, this constantly moving body and life. Thus remember the swift collapse of death. Beyond death, like body and shadow, white and black karmic results follow after. By gaining firm certainty in this, the mass of faults, subtle and very subtle, are abandoned, and the accomplishment of all virtuous collections completed. Bestow blessings to ever retain conscientiousness, fit to be trusted, the door to all suffering. Do not be content with these enjoyments. By knowing its defects, bestow blessings to develop a great aspiration for the bliss of liberation. By that pure thought, great conscientiousness is drawn forth, and mindfulness and awareness of the individual liberation, the root of the teachings. Bestow blessings to make this the essential practice. Just as I myself have fallen to samsara, bestow blessings to swiftly and continuously generate the path related to the union of calm abiding and special insight. Thus becoming a vessel trained in common paths, enter the Vajrayana, supreme evolution of all vehicles. Bestow blessings to engage the easy path itself, that sacred way of crossing for fortunate beings. The base of practice for the two aspects of attainment is when guarding the pure vows of commitment is found to be genuine and certain. Bestow blessings to protect them even at risk of life. Then, by understanding properly the important points, which are the essence of the two stages of the Tantra classes, bestow blessings to practice according to these holy teachings, with continuous effort in the supreme four-session yoga. Like that, may the spiritual friend revealing the gentle path and friends of proper practice stand firm. Bestow blessings to quickly pacify the masses of outer and inner hindrances. In all rebirths, may I never be parted from perfect gurus and the enjoyment of the glorious Dharma. By utterly completing all qualities, paths and grounds, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara. So the subject matter for today, the chapter where we're up to, is the 12 links of dependent arising, or 12 links of dependent origination. But before we start, we'll just do a few minutes of relaxing meditation, just to settle the mind, settle the body. Only do it for a few minutes. It may take generally a lot longer to settle the mind. But we'll just relax on your cushion or in your seat. Relax your body, starting from your feet. Just relaxing all your muscles all the way up from your feet, through your legs, all the way up. Feel where you're sitting, just relax. Keep a straight back. Rest the right hand in the palm of the left. Have have your head slightly tilted forward, not too much, not too high, not too low, just keeping a very nice straight spine. And breathe in through your nose if possible, otherwise no problem. Just breathing gently, just relaxing, being present. Just settling the mind, calming down. So just breathing in and breathing out at your own pace. And because we're practicing Mahayana Buddhism, we can contemplate the definition of bodhicitta from Maitreya. Just let the mind settle with the breath. Maitreya defined bodhicitta, the conventional mind of enlightenment, saying bodhicitta means for the sake of others wishing to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. So just let that thought, that mind, ride with the breath, coming in, going out. For the sake of others wishing to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. So just let that mind, that thought of bodhicitta just flow with the in-breath and the out-breath. For the sake of others wishing to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. Just let the mind settle, the body settle, relax. Just watching, observing, allowing the in-breath and the out-breath at your own pace. So just continue to breathe in and breathe out. And we'll have a look at the 12 links. Chapter 16 of Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden's Path to Enlightenment, Tibetan Buddhism. So the 12 links, as described in the book, are a special subset of dependent arisings. So this is on page 459, if you have the book with you. And they function, these links function to bind us to cyclic existence. So the point of this, the chapter, is to study and know how each of these links, these dependently related links, serves to generate and sustain suffering within cyclic existence. So in Buddhism we have renunciation, bodhicitta and enlightenment, wisdom. And renunciation, we're renouncing suffering. So we're renouncing nothing other than suffering. We're not renouncing our the things we have. We're just renouncing our attachment to suffering. And it is our ignorance that binds us to suffering. So with the motivation of bodhicitta, of thinking for the sake of others, then we're breaking that link to this self-cherishing I. And with wisdom, perceiving emptiness, which we will get to in further through the book, which shows how to meditate on the emptiness or the lack of inherent existence of the I, of self, then we can attain, step by step, attain enlightenment. So, dependent arising. The definition here of dependent arising is a phenomenon that arises in dependence upon its parts. So all phenomena are dependent arisings. And Nagarjuna, in his treatise on the middle way, states, because there are no phenomena that are not dependent arisings, there are no phenomena that are not empty. So the empty here is the emptiness of inherent existence. So things are dependently existent and relatively existent, conventionally existent, but they are empty of inherent existence, which is existing from their own side. So he's stating that because there are no phenomena that are not dependent arisings, there are no phenomena that are not empty. So therefore, because all phenomena are dependent arisings, all phenomena are empty of inherent existence. So it's not something that in our day-to-day living we think about. We generally think of things as being inherently existing from their own side. But so here we've got the examples of three progressively more subtle levels of dependent arisings. So the example here is our body. So the least subtle dependent arising is that our body exists dependent on its causes. So the sperm and the ovum of our parents. So that's the causes. And the next level is that the body exists dependent upon its parts. So we have all our limbs, arms, legs, head, bones, blood, skin, all the organs, all of these things. And so we're dependent on parts. So we're dependent on causes and conditions. We're dependent on parts. And then the most subtle level of dependent arising is that we exist in dependence upon a labelling consciousness. So the mind that labels this my body, I. And there is no body that exists independent of causes, parts and labels. So even though we think we are existing from our own side most of the time, I this, I that, me, generally, if we look at it, we can see that we are and all things are dependent upon causes, conditions, parts, and the mind labelling these things. And so it's all explained here. Impermanent phenomena, which is most of the things that we deal with, are dependent arisings because they're products and they have causes as well as parts and labels. And permanent phenomena, such as space, even though it's not produced, it has parts. So it doesn't have causes, but it has parts, which are the 10 directions. So in space, you can go this way, that way, up, down, whatever. Whether it's just the space within this building or the space of outside, outer space, inner space, it has directions. And it also has us labelling it. We call it space. So it too is a dependent arising. And then the dependent arisings are grouped into the two categories, which are deluded class of dependent arisings, that's our one, we specialise in that, and there is a pure class of dependent arisings, which we will get to when we actually have the wisdom perceiving the emptiness of inherent existence. So the thoroughly deluded class of dependent arising is defined as phenomena that arise with three conditions as causes. So there are three conditions that are cyclic existence and that have the nature of true suffering and true source. So the first of the two of the Four Noble Truths, true suffering, true source. And the reason that their cyclic existence is mentioned is to exclude contaminated places or environments, because even though these places are true suffering and true source, they're not cyclic existence. So cyclic existence, samsara, is the mind, the deluded mind that goes from rebirth to rebirth to rebirth continuously. And the three conditions mentioned here are unsupervised, so that phenomena are produced due to the presence of causes and conditions and not by a, as it says here, the supervision of a permanent deity acting as the creator. So there is no external creator creating samsara and these things. Is that Buddha calling? Hello. Then we have impermanent, in that phenomena arise from impermanent causes and conditions, and they are not permanent nature. So all things are impermanent. So even though things may last millennia, they are impermanent. And things arise from their potential, in that phenomena do not arise from just chaos. They have causes and conditions, so karma. Specific causes, specific conditions create the result. So here it states clearly that in the case of the 12 dependent links, the sequence of the 12 links is definitely the manner in which the effects are produced. So the effects do not occur randomly. So we'll have a look, and the pure class of dependent arising is defined as phenomenon of the pure class arising in dependence on its parts, and the examples are true cessation and true path. So the second part, or the third and fourth of Buddha's Four Noble Truths. So the first two are suffering and its causes, and the second, so third and fourth, true cessation, true path. So the true cessation is saying you don't have to suffer, it's not necessary, it's not compulsory, it's from your own side, and the true path is this path to enlightenment that the Buddha has provided. So if we follow this, the same way that causes and conditions do not create chaotic results, if we follow the path to enlightenment, then we are creating the causes and conditions to receive the results, which is true cessation, following this true path. So we will, step by step, attain enlightenment. That's the whole point of it. It's not random that maybe we will, maybe we won't. It may take quite a while, but it may take many lifetimes, but cyclic existence, samsara, our experience of suffering and dissatisfaction in this world or in any world, is cyclic existence, goes on until we attain enlightenment. So samsara, or cyclic existence, is forever. So if we actually practice the path to enlightenment, renouncing our suffering, generating bodhicitta for the sake of others, and wishing to attain complete, perfect enlightenment, and step by step understanding the emptiness of inherent existence so that we have the wisdom perceiving that, then we will attain enlightenment, no doubt. So we just do it step by step in everything we do. Just in anything. So just thinking, for the sake of others, I will come to class, I'll go home, I'll drive, I'll go to work, I'll go to university, I'll go to school. Whatever I'm doing, I'll have breakfast, lunch and dinner with that motivation. For the sake of others, through this action, may I and all beings attain enlightenment to benefit every sentient being. And not just the people we know or our friends or something, all sentient beings. So every human, the ones we like, the ones we don't like, the ones we very definitely don't like, we should wish for their happiness, their attainment of enlightenment. Because if they're enlightened, then they won't be causing us trouble, and they won't be causing themselves trouble. So it benefits all sentient beings. And so for all the different realms of existence too. So for animals, then thinking of their welfare, thinking of the welfare of beings who, there are the other realms of pretas or hungry ghosts, there are hell realms, and we can think of these as states of mind, but the Buddha taught them as real realms. So even though as humans can experience the sufferings of a hell realm in a bushfire or in war or somewhere or other, these realms do exist for some certain beings continuously. They're not permanent, but for the duration of a lifetime, beings experience that. And it's like for animals, that their lifetime can be one of suffering, and most of the beings, most of the animals on this planet are suffering for human beings that are being eaten or turned into clothing, shoes, leather jackets, whatever. Then we can see how our wish for all sentient beings to be free from suffering, we can actually take measures, act with true compassion to benefit all sentient beings. So by thinking, for the sake of others, I am wishing to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. So Lord Buddha, in his life, in the Rice Seedling Sutra, states, Bhikkhus, whoever sees dependent arising sees phenomena. Whoever sees phenomena sees the Buddha. So these two lines, these are just two lines of this lengthy thing here that describes the 12 links. But just these two lines would be worthy of meditation practice. If you see dependent arising, you see phenomena. If you see phenomena, you see the Buddha. So it's very deep and profound, worthy of quite a little bit of meditation, that one. But he goes on to say, due to the existence of this, that arises. So things arise from causes and conditions. So due to the existence of this, that arises. Due to the production of this, that is produced. It is thus. And then he goes on to state the 12 links. So due to ignorance, there is compositional action. Due to compositional action, there is consciousness. Due to consciousness, there are name and form. Due to name and form, there are the 6 sense sources. Due to the 6 sources, there is contact. Due to contact, there is feeling. Due to feeling, there is attachment. Due to attachment, there is grasping. Due to grasping, there is existence. And due to existence, there is birth. And due to birth, there is aging and death. And due to aging and death, there is sorrow. And grief, suffering, unhappiness, and conflict will all arise. Thus, the great suffering of the aggregates is produced. So the aggregates here are the 5 aggregates of form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness, which we have, all of those. So it goes on to say that the thoroughly deluded class of dependent arisings, so that's ours, can be classified according to its basic nature of being either true suffering or true source, or otherwise classified according to its 12 branches. So these 12 branches, the 12 links, are ignorance, compositional action, consciousness, name and form, the 6 sources, contact, feeling, craving, grasping, existence, rebirth, and then aging and death. And it's explained that they are referred to as dependent related links because they link to each other. One follows the other. So if we break these links, we break samsara. So the ignorance, which is the first of the 12 links, is ignorance of the view that things are inherently existent. It's not just general ignorance of not knowing things, not knowing what time the bus goes, or not knowing how to program a computer or how to work things. It's the nature of the emptiness of inherent existence of things. So here in this chapter, it's got the 12 links, then it's followed by condensing the links, and then how many lifetimes it takes to complete the chain of causation of the links, and then a summary. So we'll start with ignorance. So as I explained, ignorance is the mental factor that is confused as to the reality of things. So it's not seeing the emptiness of inherent existence of things. And it functions as a motivator for compositional action, which is like the second link. This ignorance is for the 3 realms of virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral, and it is neutral. So it's not a virtuous ignorance or a non-virtuous. We're just neutrally ignorant of the emptiness of inherent existence. And of the 5 aggregates that is mentioned in the Rice Seedling Sutra, so the great suffering of the aggregates is produced. So form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors and consciousness. This one is in the compositional factors aggregate. So all ordinary beings have the dependent related ignorance. So that's us. We have dependent related ignorance. Superiors, so those who have the insight, have the meditational experience of the emptiness of inherent existence, are free from this. And it's quite complex, all of this, the 12 dependent links, so it's worth reading the chapter over and over just to let it settle in the mind, because the ignorance here refers to the moments of ignorance that motivate specific compositional action or throwing karma. So there are different types of karmas. The throwing karma throws us into a future rebirth. And all of these, the links, the ignorance, compositional actions, consciousness, etc., all have a sort of depiction, emoji sort of thing. So this one is a blind man. So it's that one is obscured from seeing the true nature of things. So we're blind to the true nature of reality, basically. The reality we perceive is one of thinking that all of that exists from its own side. But it's dependent, it has causes, it has conditions, everything has parts, and everything, no matter what it is then labelled by a perceiving consciousness. So whether it's just us, ordinary beings, or whether it's a scientist looking at whatever, big space, minute things, it still has a labelling consciousness looking at these things and thinking that that thing exists from its own side, whereas that or that is dependent on causes, conditions, parts, and the observer labelling. So the blind man is depicted supported by a walking stick to indicate that ignorance is necessarily feeble and that it lacks a foundation of valid cognition. So these symbols because blind people with a walking stick have many more senses of awareness than we probably do. A compositional action, the second of the 12 dependent links, is motivated by ignorance. So the first link creates the compositional action, and it is a mental factor which functions to throw one into future existence. And as it states here, so we're on to page 464, as it is a karma capable of throwing a future rebirth, it is a complete karma having the 4 factors of object, intention, act, and completion. So a compositional action is so called because it composes or brings together, so it's a composite, all the conditions for the experience of whatever the outcome will be, so pleasurable or painful experiences and rebirths. So in the context of these 12 links, it refers to one specific action motivated by the ignorance And this establishes that potential on the consciousness. So that's the third link, which will take the rebirth. So it's all a bit mind-boggling, which is great because it warrants further reading, thinking, meditating. So that's what we do. Study, contemplate, meditate, come to realizations. So of the virtuous, non-virtuous or neutral feelings, this is neutral. And of the 5 aggregates, compositional factors, so it's a compositional factor, so compositional action is a compositional factor, and it is the object of abandonment of the path of meditation. So when we get to the path of meditation, we abandon this. And it's symbolized by a potter shaping new products on the wheel. So the clay of ignorance is moulded by compositional action, and it brings about new effects. So the third link is consciousness. And this is a consciousness that's imprinted with the compositional action. So these are linking one to the next to the next. So consciousness, of course, of the 5 aggregates is the aggregate of consciousness. So remember this form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and then there's consciousness. So consciousness is consciousness. And it has the karmic potential for future rebirth placed on the causal consciousness of a specific action. So the link here carries the potential. And here it states, sort of explains that if you think of a piece of paper with a stamp imprinted on it, the paper is clean of all marks until it is imprinted with the stamp. So our mental consciousness is clear until we stamp it with karmic potentials. So everything we do, every thought, so physically, mentally, or with speech, is a karmic action. So these are then imprinted on our consciousness. And so the consciousness is clear until stamped with the compositional action. And it's represented by a monkey, restless and agile animal that is never still, and that has a variety of perspectives depending on its position as it scampers and climbs around. So that's us, that's our consciousness, constantly moving. So the fourth of these links is name and form. So name and form occurs only at the moment of conception, and it's prior to the development of the 6 sense organs, which is the next link, so the 6 senses. So form, name and form refers to the embryo as it develops just prior to the development of the 6 sense organs. And name refers to the other 4 aggregates at that time. So we've got the form, and then the name is feeling, discrimination or compositional factors and consciousness. And the link here, the symbol, is 4 people in a boat. So that's described that the boat is the form, and the 4 people in it are the other 4 aggregates. So it's great stuff for meditation. Keeps the mind flexible, wondering what comes next. So the 5th of the 12 dependent links, 6 sources. So these are our 6 sense powers, which eye sense, ear, nose, tongue, etc., etc. So with the 6 sense powers, we see sights, we hear sounds, we have tastes, smells, tangible objects, and phenomena, so mental. So once we are reborn in the womb, a being has body and mind sense organs from the moment of conception. So body and mind. And the other 4 sense organs develop later, sort of step by step. And the 6 sources are fully developed at the point of the 5th link, but as yet are unable to function. So there's the consciousness of the other eye, ear, nose, or those things isn't working at that time. And then, so the 6th link is contact. So once we have these 6 sources, these 6 sense powers, once they experience contact with something, then we go into the others, the feeling, craving, grasping. So contact, in this context, refers to the mental factor that aggregates the 3 elements so that an object can be experienced. And the 6th, this contact, applies to the whole of this life. And it has the function of distinguishing objects as attractive, unattractive, or neutral. So all of our contact with things, we like things, we don't like things, or we don't even notice things. And this is depicted as a couple embracing. So that's contact. And then the 7th link is feeling. So from contact we get feeling. And we get happy, unhappy, or neutral feelings. And feeling is a mental factor that reacts to the sense object when contact has distinguished it as being attractive, unattractive, or neutral. And so therefore we become either happy, unhappy, or indifferent. So these from contact we get the feeling, craving, grasping, just sort of more stronger attachment. So from the feeling, it's represented by a man who has an arrow pierced in his eye, so not very pleasant feeling. And the 8th link is craving. So contact and feeling generate a mind of attachment, which is the link of craving. So attachment and craving are interchangeably used here. And by experiencing good feelings, one develops a craving for more of them. From unpleasant situations, we develop aversion, and from neutral, doesn't matter. And craving, in this link, is depicted by a man drinking beer, and describes it as no matter how much he has drunk, he still wants even more, though it is making him fat and ruining his health. Goodness gracious me. 9th link is grasping. So yeah, the craving when it becomes very strong is grasping. And there are 4 types of grasping listed here. The grasping for desire realm objects, so we're in the desire realm. So it's the 6 senses. So pleasant forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and tangible, touchable objects. And the 2nd type of grasping is grasping for deluded views, holding strongly to a conception that is incorrect. And these, if you want to check on those, are in the delusions back on page, so in 468 at the moment, they're back on page 423, 424 under deluded views. So there's these deluded views of the it says it specifically refers to the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of the deluded views, which is holding extreme views of the I, holding the false view as supreme, so viewing that the transitory collection, the self, holding it to be supreme, so it's an exaggerated deluded view. And the fourth deluded view there is false ethics and conduct as supreme. So it's incorrect ethical practice. So that's deluded views. And then the third of the four types of grasping is for grasping for ethics and rituals, is holding incorrect ethics and conduct as being the path to enlightenment. So it's based on the fifth of the deluded views. And the fourth type of grasping is grasping for a self. So viewing our transitory collection, our five aggregates of form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors and consciousness as truly existent. So thinking that we truly exist is kind of the basis of ignorance. And so it says how the eighth and ninth links, so craving and grasping, refer only to those moments of attachment and grasping at the time of death that nourish or activate a particular karmic potential, causing the consciousness to be thrown into the next life. So this is the depiction here is a monkey grasping fruit, which is us just grasping at desired objects. So from the contact, feeling, craving, grasping, we experience existence. So a karmic potential imprinted on consciousness by the compositional action creates all these links up to craving, grasping, and it is empowered to bring the next link, which is existence, and from that comes rebirth. So the picture for the existence 10th link is a woman in the late stages of pregnancy. Rebirth is the precise moment at which the potentialized consciousness first meets the next rebirth state. So and it simultaneously occurs with name and form of the rebirth. And in the second moment of that rebirth, aging commences. And then it lists how there are four possible types of rebirth, so generally understood: from a womb, by heat, from an egg, and by transformation. So transformation here is explained as a miraculous birth, sometimes in the ancient times called birth from a lotus. So the birth from a womb refers not to the actual moment of birth, but to the moment of conception, but is nonetheless depicted by a woman having given birth. So in that the link refers to the actual production of this rebirth state. And so from that comes the 12th link, which we know quite well: aging and death. But aging commences in the moment immediately following rebirth. So it's not, aging doesn't happen when we're old. Aging is a progressive experience. From the moment of conception, one begins to age. Following this progressive aging, there is deteriorating aging, which becomes more apparent in old age. And as everyone is aging, only convention determines what is considered relatively old or relatively young. And death is the moment at which the consciousness separates from the body. So it's not generally at the time when the breathing stops, it's when the consciousness leaves the body. So in the context of the 12th of the 12 dependent links, death refers to the end of life, which began with the 11th link, and the link of aging death is represented by an old man carrying a corpse on his back. So those are the 12 links. If we experience the meditation on the emptiness of inherent existence, so overcoming ignorance, then we break all those links. We can still have all those. It's not cyclic existence. Like there are enlightened beings that take rebirth on this planet, but they're not part of these 12 dependent links. So like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he is doesn't have the link of ignorance, therefore he chooses rebirths, doesn't create the negative karmas from the compositional actions, because he doesn't have the ignorance grasping at a self, at an inherently existent self. So he has bodhicitta motivation, thinking for the sake of others. So rather than for the sake of this oneself, which is unfindable in meditation anyway, then one can take rebirths to benefit all sentient beings without being part of these 12 dependent links of samsara, of cyclic existence. So it's not like we no longer exist, and we can choose in attaining enlightenment to benefit all sentient beings, to teach all sentient beings. So it's not like we just go, oh, I'm cool, I'm out of here. There is the motivation to benefit all sentient beings. So the second part of this is how we condense the links. So they're condensed into 3 groups, or 3 categories, which are delusion, karma, and suffering. So the delusion, the link here, the 3 of the links are ignorance, craving, and grasping. So those are deluded. Karma, causes and actions, is compositional action and existence. And suffering is consciousness, name and form, the 6 sources, contact, feeling, rebirth, aging and death. So those are the 3 groups that they can be put into: delusion, karma and suffering. And then there are 4 groups, or 4 categories, where we have projecting causes, and those, therefore, the projected effects, and the actualizing causes and the actualized effects. So the projecting causes are the links that throw a rebirth. So the next rebirth. So the first 3 links, ignorance, compositional action and consciousness, they throw a rebirth. So from ignorance, a compositional action places a potential on consciousness. So this is the cause that may project a life at some stage in the future. And then whether it does or doesn't depends on purification practices. So we can purify anything, because all these are just imprints on consciousness that, through the 4 opponent powers of power of the object, the power of regret, power of commitment, power of the opponent, and the power of commitment, we can overcome any negative action, whether it's physical, mental, or verbal, and so that doesn't have to come about. So those are the projecting causes, and the actualizing causes are causal links that nourish and develop the karmic potentials So the projecting causes are activated and nourished by craving and grasping, and they generate existence. And although the projecting causes, the first ones, may or may not ripen into a rebirth, the actualizing causes definitely ripen in the next rebirth. So it's very complex and worth studying more and more, checking up. But yeah, reading, thinking, meditating. So the third group are projected effects, the resulting links arising from the actualizing of what has been projected. So the projected effects arising from the 6 causal links are the development of name and form, the 6 sources, contact and feeling, and then the actualized effects are the resulting links that develop from the previously collected projecting causes. So that's rebirth, aging and death. So those are the actual effects we experience. And then it basically says the links can further be examined in reference to the first 2 noble truths. So ignorance, compositional actions, attachment, grasping and existence are true sources, so true causes, while the remainder are true suffering. So they're the experience. So the 4 noble truths, true sources or true causes, true suffering, true cessation, which is cutting the 12 links, and the paths to that. So then Geshe here explains how many lifetimes it takes for these links to be completed. So it's a minimum of 2, so from one life to the next. But it may, however, be 3 or many more. And it's also, if you have the book, you can read further on that. And it also explains here that the Rice Seedling Sutra gives the illustration of the sower being ignorance. And into the fields of compositional action, he sows the seeds of consciousness. And that if watered with the water of attachment, the sprout of name and form will arise in the mother's womb. So we're creating these causes that bring about the effects that we don't want. So the whole point is to overcome. My cushions here are falling apart, excuse me. Yeah, so we overcome our delusions, which is our ignorance, then we cut through the whole 12 links. So in summary, in the essence of dependent arising, Nagarjuna says, from 3, develop 2. From 2, develop 7. Again, from 7, develop 3. And this wheel of life rotates again and again. So then we have the explanation here. From 3 delusions, so ignorance, craving and grasping, arise 2 actions, which are compositional action and existence. So from those 2 actions come the 7 sufferings of consciousness, name and form, 6 sources, contact, feeling, birth, and aging and death. And then from these 7, the 3 delusions arise again, so ignorance, craving and grasping. So this cyclic existence is perpetuated. So we just go round and round in this cycle of suffering, which goes on. It is beginningless, it is endless, unless we attain enlightenment. So it may take a while to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. But since samsara is forever, then it's something that enlightenment, if we actually create the causes and conditions, then the results will occur and we will break the chain of these 12 links. And Geshe explains that once you know how contaminated aggregates arise from the source of actions and delusions, and the manner in which you're caught up in the 12 links, you can clearly see that ignorance is the root of the whole process. So this clears the whole misconception that things arise without cause. And this helps us to understand the reality of things. So it says here too, this is great, we've now completed the teachings on the first two noble truths, true suffering, true source, and the Buddha taught them so that beings would develop renunciation, the basis of the path of medium scope. According to the outline structure at the beginning of this third part of the book, we'll now examine the criteria in establishing whether one has attained the realisation of medium scope and dispel misconceptions regarding this. We'll then move on to the third and fourth noble truths, which is where we want to be, true cessation and true path. All of this Lam Rim, all of the path to enlightenment is part of the path. We're just seeing why in these chapters true causes, so why we're suffering. So we can do some meditation now. So we'll just settle the mind once again. Relax the body, settle on your cushion or your chair. Just feeling completely relaxed. From the tips of your toes to the top of your head, just feel very, very relaxed, physically and mentally. Just breathing, relaxing, watching the breath, coming in, going out. And now visualize in front the image of Shakyamuni Buddha in space, in front of you, as far, not too far away, not too close, in the nature of light. Sitting on a lotus, moon and sun, representing renunciation, the realisation of renunciation, the realisation of bodhicitta, and the realisation of wisdom. So these are supporting Lord Buddha visualised in front of us. And so now visualise, imagine that from Buddha's heart, beautiful golden rays of light emanate. And come to your crown, your throat and heart. Just beautiful golden light entering the top of your crown, entering into your throat, to the throat chakra, and into the heart chakra. purifying all negativities, obstacles of body, speech and mind. Feel completely purified. Just feel that beautiful golden light rays coming from light nature, Buddha. Complete, perfect enlightenment. Entering our body, purifying body, speech and mind. Feel your whole body very light, blissful, relaxed. Feel your whole body filled with light. Purifying all our ignorance. Creating the potential for us to experience complete, perfect enlightenment and benefit all numberless, countless sentient beings. Just feel that beautiful golden light coming from Shakyamuni Buddha. Knowing that we have that Buddha potential. We're creating the causes and conditions to attain complete, perfect enlightenment. By hearing teachings, by listening, thinking and meditating on the path to enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, we are creating the causes and conditions that step by step will result in enlightenment. So we'll finish there for this week, and do the prayers. We'll do the final prayer of the graduated path. On page 31 if you have the prayer book. By the two collections vast as space, amassed with effort for a long time, may I become a chief of conquerors, a guide for all beings whose mind's eye is blinded by ignorance. Also, in all lives, while not yet come to that, may Manjushri favour me with his compassion, finding the supreme path, complete with all stages of the teachings. May I please the conquerors by practicing well, by my precise understanding of the essential points of the path, with skillful means drawn along by strong compassion, and by dispelling the mental darkness of beings, may I uphold the conqueror's teaching for a long time. Where the supreme, precious teaching has not spread, also where it has spread but become degenerate, with a mind deeply moved by great compassion, may I make clear this treasure of benefit and bliss, the stages of the path excellently established by the marvellous deeds of the conquerors and their children. Give glory to the minds of those aspiring for liberation. May the conquerors' deeds be long preserved. May all humans and non-humans remove the obstructions and establish conditions favourable to cultivating the excellent path, never be parted for all of their lifetimes from the purest of paths which the Buddhas have praised. When someone makes effort to practice properly the 10 points of conduct of the Supreme Vehicle, may they always be assisted by mighty protectors, and may oceans of good fortune spread out, reaching all. So we'll do the special dedication and the general dedications in English. So first we'll just contemplate all the merit, the potential, Buddha potential we've created, the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, and we'll dedicate that to all sentient beings, and we'll dedicate it to Jogi who passed away recently, that Jogi may experience a perfect human rebirth, may attain complete perfect enlightenment, and benefit all countless numberless living beings without exception. So we'll do the special dedication. Whatever white virtues we have thus created, we dedicate as causes enabling us to uphold the holy Dharma of scripture and realization, and to fulfill without exception the prayers and deeds of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times. By the power of this merit in all our lives, may we never be parted from the 4 wheels of the Mahayana, and may we complete the journey on the paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, pure view, and the 2 stages. By this virtue, may all beings complete the collections of wisdom and merit, and attain the 2 holy bodies arisen from wisdom and merit. May the precious superior mind of enlightenment be generated in those who have not yet generated it, and not decrease in those who have developed it, but increase continuously. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions that I might be able to answer?
If ignorance is the first step, the mind that falls into ignorance printed upon by the next stage of consciousness?
Yeah, if ignorance is the first step, is mind ignorant? So the mind, the deluded view of the I, of self and also phenomena, is what is ignorance. So there's general ignorance, but that's the ignorance of the nature of reality. So there's just general ignorance of not knowing things, but this ignorance is the lack of the wisdom that perceives the emptiness of inherent existence, or the true nature of things. So generally we don't perceive anything correctly. We perceive things, whether it's people or places, objects, whatever, as existing from their own side. So it's just an innate thing that we've had for countless lifetimes, and that through meditation on the wisdom perceiving emptiness, so on the nature of reality, over and over and over, we can cut through that ignorance. And then by cutting ignorance, we can cut all of the other links of suffering. So we can still take rebirth, but we're taking rebirth to benefit sentient beings. We're not taking rebirth from a deluded karmic experience that just gets thrown from one life to the next, not knowing where we're going to be, not knowing what we're going to experience. We can create the causes that bring about the conditions to benefit others. So so the next few chapters, the medium scope, great scope, takes us into the whole world of the mind of bodhicitta. So thinking for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's our minds doing that, rather than thinking, how can I win in everything? So it's completely, because by understanding the emptiness of the I, the fact that apart from this thought, this mind of I, there is no I, because we're just a dependent arising. We're just all these parts. We have causes, conditions, parts, and a label. But when you sit down and meditate on it, you can't find an I. It's not like you're not there, you're still there. But when you can't find the I, you actually have the wisdom perceiving the emptiness of inherent existence. And once you have one insight into the emptiness of one thing being empty of inherent existence, then you realise that everything is empty of inherent existence. So nothing is existing from its own side. So all these chairs, this building, everything is dependent on parts, on causes and conditions. And yet we just look at this beautiful place and think, temple. But everything that's here has been something else. So that, like the walls that are timber or whatever they are, were trees. Prior to trees, they were seeds. Prior to being seeds, they were something on another tree. They needed people to, like, there's just a beginningless, evolving, unbelievable emptiness of inherent existence that we're experiencing, that is phenomena, but we just perceive it from that is that. And conventionally, we don't see it. We just see it as inherently existent rather than as it really is. So there's some wonderful teachings and books on, so like the Path to Enlightenment, there's so many subtleties to it that, like these books are printed, but this is the wisdom of Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden in those books. And so to bring these to fruition and have them printed and manufactured, we just see them as a book. But there's prior to the book, there was the mind of enlightenment of Geshe, and prior to that, there was, before he became, had the wisdom and the insight, he, in previous lives, people are just ordinary people, but once you have that realization of renunciation, so you give up the ignorance of wanting, so the suffering, you generate bodhicitta, so the mind thinking of others, for the benefit of others, and you develop the wisdom. So two types of wisdom: wisdom perceiving the emptiness, so you're overcoming ignorance, but the wisdom of just knowing what to do too, just generally. And then you become a Buddha, then you can benefit all sentient beings like Geshe has by manifesting all of this and creating these causes and conditions. And so it's just dependent on causes. So the mind of ignorance is not it's not an inherently existent thing. So that mind can change. The mind changes every moment. So we can sit, read, think, meditate. So thinking, contemplation, meditation, experience all of the realizations leading to enlightenment. And completely, ignorance is just a state of mind. We can clear that state of mind because the mind itself, its true nature, like the thing of these imprints on a page, on a blank paper, the mind is in the nature of clear light. It's just clarity and knowing. That's our mind. But because we perceive things as inherently existent, we then create all these imprints and all of those links, and therefore we suffer. So by breaking that, by cutting through through meditation, and we need to know what we're meditating on, so not just sitting down to meditate, trying to find something. We're meditating on specific subjects, on how to overcome ignorance, how to overcome the delusions, how to overcome attachment, craving, grasping, all of those things. Then we are creating karma to actually experience realizations. And through those realizations, we're creating the karma to eventually the mind of enlightenment. It's like we have that already. We have Buddha potential, the fundamental potential, and everybody has it. But because basically we have this deluded view of inherent existence, everything somehow becomes concrete. So we can cut through our ignorance because it's just mind. It's not a solid thing existing from its own side. So it's quite good. Any other? So we'll go and have a cup of tea, tradition, and so we'll come back next week and we'll have a look at the next chapter, step by step. So enjoy your week. Benefit all sentient beings. Thank you for coming.